Good evening, everyone. It's Neva Menon from hearthealthbrainhealth.com, encouraging healthy grieving and mindful actions. Today, I thought I would continue on this series, and this may or may not be the last video about this series, although I will be continuing on this direction of contemplation and reflection with you, or to share with you. And today, I wanted to talk about one more aspect of this whole creation to destruction and beyond section, this playlist that I've made. I really wanted to help you understand what most teachings about spirituality do touch on in various ways. And this whole idea about what is created is destroyed. So you might have heard that term, from ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And that is a very well-known phrase that a lot of times people will hear at funerals and often when people are being buried. And so this video, I specifically wanted to talk about the other end of this. So we're talking about creation to destruction. And when we look at this, I thought a quotation that I came across would help me also help you understand the direction that I'm trying to point our minds into, or help point your mind into. And again, it's for your own reflection and contemplation, and not for me to tell you. It's literally just for you to see what it all means to you. And so this quotation was by Donald Miller, and it says, "In the age of information, ignorance is a choice. In the age of information, ignorance is a choice." So in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. And again, you know that how much information we can find online and in libraries we've had forever. And certainly in communication, we have information coming at us for ages. We have. And right now, this is the age of information, and we are getting almost overloaded with information. Yet anyone that wants to really know and understand something has a way to access this information in terms of knowledge that is expressed by many. And now it's a matter of what kind of knowledge do we take in and for what purpose. So when I'm talking about creation to destruction and beyond in this series, it's because it's definitely an interest for me, and I believe it's something that we are all experiencing regularly, whether consciously or not. And so today I thought I would talk a little bit about how I had mentioned in that first video. If you've seen the first video of the creation that I made, which is all about the word. And if you take a look at that video, if you haven't had a chance to see it, you'll see that I discussed some of the basic elements that leads to creation from at least ancient writings. And I would love for you to reflect on the fact that it talks about things beginning from space, then air, then fire, then water, and then earth. So this would be the space of creation, that this is the direction that things are created. And in Vedic scripture, they often call this process a grossification. So this is one thing adding on to another to create. And in this creation, we, of course, we go through our lives as humans that often think about, why does this happen this way? Why do I feel this way? Why do I think this way? Why do I do what I do? All of those things. Why does my body hurt? Why do I think this way? Why do I emotionally hurt? All of those things. And Vedic scripture really talks about this body, mind, intellect. So again, if you've been watching the past couple of videos for this series, you'll understand what I'm talking about a little bit. And if you haven't, take a look at those. But for this particular video, I wanted to make sure that you understand that when we look at, and if you're working with anyone that is close to this space, or you have already been around someone who was dying or has passed away, you might understand this too. And remember that I work with grief. And so it's not only death, but it's dying. It's also the loss of something. And if we're thinking about death, though, we're thinking about this grossification process, which allowed creation, so let's say of our form, to then dissolve. And if you were ever to watch this process carefully, what do we see when someone is dying? the first thing we see is the element of air is lost. So, we hear that term, she took or he took their last breath. That was their last breath, right? So we often will see that if you are ever watching this, you'll see air escape if you're watching very, very carefully. And oftentimes when medical doctors are checking to see if someone has passed away, they check to see if a glass would get fogged up near the mouth or the nose. They'll check to feel the temperature of the body and that all sorts of things like this. And why does that happen? So we release that air, which, in a lot of spiritual thinking, and again, if you're meditating regularly, you'll know the term prana, which is again this distribution of air, which gives us this part of the life force. So air is one of those initial elements that is helping create this body, this mind, this experience. And so air is the first thing that goes. And the second thing, if you would notice, it's fire that goes. And this is why when the body is being checked for its temperature, you think about the fire in the body, there's something that is providing heat. You will notice that once this air has left, the body gets colder. So it gets colder and colder. And it loses its internal fire. The body loses this fire. And the next thing that goes is water. So oftentimes people will see that fluid, it's almost like the body is leaking, that there would be a lot of fluid around a body because it's not held in cells anymore. It's just leaking out of the body. And this, a person who might see someone who's passed away a little bit earlier would see that the body looks like it's more noticeable for the wrinkles because that water fills up our body. It gives us a little bit of fullness to our body and the skin, and it gives that full appearance. When the body does not have water, it gives that really shrunken sort of look that you would notice on someone who has passed away. And certainly the longer time that a body is not living, and you might see this if you've ever worked in medical labs or worked with cadavers, you would see this on these bodies that it seems like just skin and bones. There's not a lot of substance to the bodies. And then finally, it is earth. That's the last thing that's lost. And what we would see is if a body stays for some length of time, we know that when bodies are buried, they turn into dust. And so this whole idea of ashes to ashes, dust to dust, that people do often hear or recite at funerals. This is what happens to the grossified or materialized body from creation. Now, when we look at spirituality, so this was not a morbid conversation, just so you know, I want you to understand this is the process of the body. Yet no matter which tradition you might look at, if you are spiritual, so it could be religious or it could be spirituality coming through just a sense of oneness or a pure consciousness, that sort of idea, whichever way. But if you look at it, there's always this awareness that what survives is this soul energy, this soul, which most texts will also say to become one with that soul while you're living makes death an easy process. This suffering that people think about at death can happen for the body, can happen for the mind, but it does not happen for the soul unless the soul has attached itself to the body and mind and the intellect, and it believes that's what I am. So when it's in that space, a person does not find that very easy. And this is why that if we're practicing this knowledge, which overcomes ignorance, now remember, ignorance is not that thinking like someone is stupid. It's not that term when we're using the term ignorance here. Ignorance is not knowing. When we know who we are, that term know thyself, when we know we are this soul, the whole long-term benefit of it, on top of the short-term benefit that happens that I'll be chatting about with you too, but the long-term benefit is when we are close to our own time of death, or we're even seeing someone else's passing time. It's a recognition that the soul is living on. The soul lives on for ourselves and for anyone else we might be noticing around us. And this is such a powerful awareness. I thought, of course, because I love these sorts of things, that I would find a quotation that would help to also inspire you in terms of learning this, because certainly Vedic teaching encourages this understanding. And the biggest fall, which apparently also comes from the Bible, is forgetting who we are in terms of the soul. And this idea, of course, is very much elaborated on in the Vedic scriptural reading that I do, and in Vedas in general. So if you were just reading out of curiosity or just interest, it's not that you have to think about it as a religious text. It's information. And again, in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. So this I thought was such a beautiful passage that I read that I thought I'd love to end this video with for you today. This is by Chief Tecumseh, and this passage says, "So live your life that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Trouble no one about their religion. Respect others in their view and demand that they respect yours. Love your life, perfect your life, beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and its purpose in the service of your people. Prepare a noble death song for the day when you go over the great divide. Always give a word or a sign of salute when meeting or passing a friend, even a stranger, when in a lonely place. Show respect to all people and grovel to none. When you arise in the morning, give thanks for the food and for the joy of living. If you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies only in yourself. Abuse no one and no thing, for abuse turns the wise ones to fools and robs the spirit of its vision. When it comes to your time to die, be not like those whose hearts are filled with the fear of death, so that when their time comes, they weep and pray for a little more time to live their lives over again in a different way. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home." Oh, I love that. And I do wish that for all of us. And honestly, I have to tell you that this is a very similar thinking of Vedic teaching too. So in this, I actually found something that I also wanted to share with you. And this comes from David or Henry David Thoreau. And I love this because it's just so similar. And this is what I love finding, that in our world, in the world, truth is the same. It's always approached a little bit differently from different people, but the essence of it, you'll see that what I just read to you is very similar to what Henry David Thoreau is saying in this quotation. This quotation is truly the one that I will finish with, but I will tell you it's a beautiful one, so I will share with you. He says, "Whenever I have read any part of the Vedas, I have felt that some unearthly and unknown light illuminated me. In the great teaching of the Vedas, there is no touch of sectarianism. It is of all ages, climes, and nationalities, and is the royal road for the attainment of the great knowledge. When I read it, I feel that I am under the spangled heavens of a summer night." Oh, I love that too. And I have to tell you, this is how I feel when I read the Vedas. And so, for nothing else, if you ever read even quotations from the Vedas, or if you actually pick up whether it's the Bhagavad Gita, which is certainly one of my favorites, or the Upanishads, or something Vedic, you will notice that there's a lot of similarity in terms of your essence, your truths that you can understand from yourself. And that is what is encouraged in the Vedas, is for you to understand things from your own awareness. And this is what I'd wish for all of us. And of course, I'll be elaborating a little bit more about this in future videos. But for now, I wish you a fantastic night. I hope you have a little bit of time to contemplate these ideas and thoughts. And of course, I'll be writing these passages just under this video on YouTube. And I wish you a fantastic evening ahead. I hope you remember, transform your mind and transform your life. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye-bye.